Lisa.
Hey y'all, this is Jen.
And this is our podcast,
Speak
SpeakUp.
Up.
What's up, Jen?
Hi girl.
How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm good. Glad we made it to episode
38.
8. Oh my goodness, I had to retract for a second.
Seriously, you guys have no idea, by now there's so many that we just lose count.
Yeah, I agree. For those of you that don't know, me and Jen are best friends, and we created this podcast to use our voices to motivate people to overcome life's challenges through self-love and respect.
Yes, self-love and respect, as you guys know by now, are two values that we hold very dearly to our hearts.
Yes, and it's our duty to push that, to everybody globally.
Yeah, so anyway, you want to get into it?
Yes. So, Jen, what is our title today?
I am particularly biased towards this title because I think it should apply to everything in life. Mm-hmm. But anyway, the title of our episode is called Is It Worth It?
Is it worth it? I like that. I think I need a sticky note in my car. I need to ask myself that whenever I'm about to make a decision. I think if I asked that in the past, I would have been better by now.
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine how many situations we probably would have saved ourselves from if we just asked, is it worth it? Before taking that next step. So, yeah, you guys, we took a lot for the team. So,
yeah, so the reason why we named it Is It Worth It is because, basically we're talking about, aligning and contrasting with different relationships in your life. You either align or you contrast, and it's about getting your needs met and your wants met. I feel like oftentimes we'll meet people in our life, and honestly our energies be contrasting, but we're trying so hard to make it work that we don't care that it's not aligning. And honestly, it's really problematic for ourselves at the end of the day, especially when a person is just benefiting from you.
Man, I think that's the realest shit I've heard in a while. That's the thing. Sometimes we gotta realize, am I benefiting from this? Is the other person the only one actually winning in this whole situation? Mm-hmm. And the thing is, sometimes you may be the one benefiting from the entire thing and the other person's losing out. So we thought it was important to talk about this because I know for a lot of us, not just women also, but we've been in situations where maybe, like you said, we're just not aligning, we're trying to make it work, trying to force it and everything, and it's just not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. So we need to stop doing that. But first, we need to even know how to do that, right? We need to know what these situations look like, when to know something's over or shouldn't have even started in the first place, right? So, yeah, we need to get into this.
Yeah, I think it really starts with, stop trying to fit in everybody else's box,
Agreed.
What does your box consist of? I feel like when we do that, we're cutting parts of ourselves, doing all these rearranging, but then in the day we're losing parts of ourselves and the other person's gaining. But then in the day when it doesn't work out, we're the ones who lose at the end.
Mm-hmm. And I think, I know we always go back to this, but I think one of the biggest things that happens, or where that happens from, is social media. I know we compare ourselves a lot to what we see online, right? So that can be even with relationships, I want it to be like this, well, if my person is not this romantic, or if they don't do this for me, I don't want them. And don't get me wrong, hold your standards, that by all means, have them, but it's we just gotta stop thinking we want something that the other person has, or just thinking that it's gonna work the same way that they worked out. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because, let's be real, social media is really just what you want to show. So
True.
People could post 1,000 pictures, he did this for me, he did this, but it's okay, he got you roses this day, but the other day, when y'all alone, they probably got in an argument during that picture. So I feel like with social media, comparison is very deadly, because it's in the day, people have different wants and needs. So, whatever's making that person happy, that doesn't mean that's going to make you happy, because you might end up with that type of relationship, but you realize it's not even what you wanted. So it's really about finding yourself, knowing who you are, knowing what you want. So that way, when it is time for you to meet the one and stuff like that, you are satisfied and you're not worried about what Joe did on social media, what Joanna is doing. You're worried about your own life, and you're happy because you're genuinely happy.
That's true. I think this is why we need to normalize being single in the first place, right? I don't see anything wrong with it. Don't get me wrong. If you're happy in love and you're in a good relationship and, you found your person, cool. By all means, enjoy that. Definitely show it off if you want to. That's, not even what we're talking about. What we're talking about is, just knowing what you want, being happy with yourself, first of all, because we got to realize we have our whole own lives outside of relationships, outside of work, work, outside of everything. You come with the whole being inside of you, like a whole soul, you know, so you got to take care of all of that. And the only way you're actually going to be able to work on any of that is by being single. Like, we talk about this all the time, like, work on those traumas, work on everything that you've been through in the past, learn from past relationships that failed, or, you know, just past situations in general. Like, I think this is so important, because then you really know what you want, what you don't want, but then also what you come with, right? You learn, like, what are my toxic traits, you know, but also what are my good traits? Like, yeah, I'm not a perfect person, but I also have a lot of good things to bring to the table. But if you're constantly just like, no, I gotta look for a person who's this, and that, like, well, what are you bringing? You know, like, have you worked on any of your baggage?
Yeah, dang. And yeah, I feel like that's where the whole idea of like not being accountable comes from, because you're so focused on mirroring the other person that you're not working on yourself. I think I just find it very crazy that there is a socially constructed stigma on being single. And honestly, being single, it is one of the most like liberating things that can happen to you, in the aspect of, especially if you're using it in a healthy way. You know, yeah, if you're just single and you're just complaining the whole time, wishing you're with somebody and stuff, obviously that's wasted time. And then I feel like when you allow yourself to get so lonely in that, you'll fall for anything, anybody that comes your way, any love that somebody tries to offer you, even if it is traumatizing. But when you're taking that single time and you're embracing it and you're doing the inner work that's needed to be done, it's nothing but a beautiful feeling that comes out of it, because you're either like right with yourself, enjoying being single and just being on your own flow, or like you are attracting better, or you're able to say no and like meet your wants and needs when you are dating, or, you know, just attracting better friendships, or like knowing what family members to surround yourself with, and what family members don't deserve all your time, because I'm gonna be real, your family, they can drain you too.
True. No, that's true. I don't know about you. Well, actually, I do. But, you know, I know we both enjoy being single. Like, you know, don't get me wrong. Yeah, finding love would be cool. But it's like, this is the happiest I've been single in a really long time, you know, and like, I'm so happy just being able to be selfish, you know, not having to report to anybody, and especially not dealing with any of the headaches that I was dealing with in the past. Like, I'm so liberated that it feels so good to just be a single woman in her mid-20s, you know, just living life, finding me, like, becoming a better me every single day, and just knowing that there's so much more I can look forward to, because all I have to focus on is me. Don't get me wrong, I focus on my family, all that, my friendships, of course, but like, it's just good to be able to have that me time at the end of the day. You know, like, work is stressful, and, you know, sometimes you don't want to talk to people, sometimes you just want to be alone, and having that possibility feels so good. And like, I think anybody who's in a situation right now where, you know, you recently became single, or you've been single for a while, and like, oh, you want to find somebody, fall in love with yourself every single day. I know it's easier said than done, and even I'm still working on loving myself every day. You know, it's a battle, but if you never actually take the time and just like think to yourself, like, what are your good traits, you know, what makes you a badass, what makes you you, you're never going to be able to find that out if you're just always surrounded by something, especially a situation that's no good for you. Like, that's definitely not fair.
No, I completely agree with that. And I want to say, like, you know, going off what Jen said, like, the first you being single, or, you know, or just being in a time where you feel like you need someone to complete you. Like, I've been there. And honestly, it's not the business when you feeling like that, because like when you I've been there was a time where I felt like I had to have a dude, I had to be talking to somebody, dating somebody or something like that, and I'll be honest, I was lost. I wasn't in a good space, I was in a low space, and I had to pull myself up out of that and embrace that time. And ever since it's happened, it was like the best thing that happened to me. And I feel like you said, the headaches are not there anymore, or like just, you know, just doing anything. And I feel like when you get in that time where you feel like you need to be with somebody and stuff, that's where those situations come in, where you catch yourself bending over backwards for people, stretching yourself out, because you're doing all these things to please a person, to keep them around, you know, to stay dating somebody or whatever, that you end up losing yourself. And I feel like that's one of the most problematic things that can happen to us, because once we lose ourselves, then what? And then when the person ain't even worth it, when it is a toxic person, that's even more damage you're causing to yourself. And I feel like when you're causing more damage to yourself, all it does is highlight the traumas that you were already dealing with, that you weren't even dealing with it, that were numbed. And I just feel like it allows those cuts to just keep getting open and open time after time.
No, you bring up a really good point. Like the fact that we think that's normal, you know, to stretch ourselves thin for somebody, to bend over backwards for them. Like, I think being single has made me realize how much we normalize those traumatic, problematic behaviors as well. Like, we think that it's okay for, you know, a relationship to be arguments every single day. I mean, there was a point where I thought that was normal. Like, I know it's normal to argue with your partner every now and then. No one's perfect, you know, you gotta find that balance. But at the end of the day, too, like, you have to know when is the limit, right? Like, how much arguing is too much arguing, like when it's just draining. Or, you know, like, I remember at one point being in that relationship, and just felt like, you know, so scared to like wake up in the morning and read a text from him, and it's like, damn, like we're arguing all over again over something that should have been, you know, resolved like a month ago or 2 months ago, whatever. But like, I don't miss walking on eggshells around a person, but there was a time where I really thought that was normal. Like, I really thought like, okay, we're arguing again, but we're gonna get through it, you know. And then we're good for 3 days, and then boom, we're arguing all over again. It's like, okay, we're arguing, but we're gonna get through it. And I didn't realize I was just losing myself every single time, but I thought that was normal. Like, when I was younger, that was in my household. I thought I saw like my biological father fight with my mom, and you know, I just like really thought, okay, you know, it's hard love, but it's okay. It's love that's worthy, love that makes me want to fight for something, you know. And like, being single has made me realize, what the fuck, no, it doesn't work that way.
No, and it's crazy because it's like when those behaviors are normalized, when there is peace, like when there is quiet, no arguments, it's like, well, what's wrong? And it's crazy because it's like a mind fuck, because it's like, doesn't it sound like, but I feel like I feel like being single and stuff, and like finding peace with yourself, you learn what peace actually feels like, to where it's like, now, yeah, if some motherfucker walked in your life right now with that shit, it's like, okay, this ain't it.
Right.
You know, versus like when we were like more in like a disturbed place, to where it was like, okay, I need that sound. Where's that background noise at? But it's like, now it's like, I know what that silence feels like. I know what peace feels like. I know how I should be treated. And I feel like that's why it's like, it's great that like, you know, both of us are at that level where it's like, we're embracing that peaceful time. And, you know, we're able to talk about it in a healthy way, and like show other people like, you don't need to be doing this. Like, I'm at a point now too, like, you know, I got homegirls that's, you know, I mean, homeboys and homegirls, you know, that, you know, that are dating and stuff, and like they'll come to me like, oh, this happened, and I'm at a point, I'm like, why are you dealing with that? And it's like, I have to remember, you know, like it's easier for me to teach it to them, like, you know, to say it like, you know, you don't have to be dealing with this. Actually, we're actually taught that it's normal to argue, and that we need to be fighting for our love. And it's like, yeah, like I said, what are we fighting about? What is the root? Fights are gonna happen, but what is it about? If it's just fighting just to be fighting, yeah, obviously it's something isn't right. It's toxic. But if it's fighting for each other, or like a logical reason, there's a difference. And I think when we say, is this, I think we should be asking, is the argument worth it? Like, at the end of the day, like, is it worth me yelling on top of my lungs, a vein popping out my forehead? Like, what are we fighting about? And is this gonna keep happening? You know, so I think too, like, that's just something to embrace in that single time, is that peace.
That's true. No, I remember there was a point where I felt like we're just running in circles like cat and mouse.
Man.
Just, you know, like how Tom and Jerry just don't stop chasing each other, you know, and like eventually when one gives up on the other, it's like, oh, where'd he go? You know, like, why isn't he chasing me today? That's how I felt in that relationship with the arguments. And it's like, I just got to my point where I was like, I'm tired of arguing. I'm not even this person. Like, you know me. I'm not problematic.
Sure,
like, I be chilling.
Chill.
You know, so when this was happening, I was like, what is going on? Like, my ugliest side just kept coming out every single day. And I realized, like, we just don't align, you know? And that's the thing. Like, we need to realize, if our values don't align with somebody, don't force it. If the shoe don't fit, if the crown don't fit, you know, if the man don't fit, the woman don't fit, you know, it ain't gonna work, you know. And we need to really stay true to that. Like, don't get me wrong, like we were saying, you know, yes, relationships, you're gonna argue and stuff, and it's good to fight for each other, but don't fight against each other. If that's all that you're doing, you're constantly, you know, it's me versus him, or, you know, whomever you're dealing with, like, you need to reevaluate the entire relationship. Like, what are you doing with this person, you know? And then really be okay with that, like realizing that your values don't align. Like, you know, you tried it didn't work out, but I'm not trying to force it, because then that's how we end up in dead-end relationships. We stunt our growth along the way, and we just end up settling and unhappy. Like, can't even imagine what that's like just being with somebody because I have history with them, and oh well, who else am I gonna deal with? Like, that doesn't sound like, you know, romance or the love that you read about or hear about, you know, even seen in my own household, like when my mom got remarried. Like, it was just, you know, I want that healthy love, but the thing is, like, I have to realize that my values have to align with that person first.
That's so true, and I feel like, you know, learning your values and morals come from learning yourself, and that, and allowing yourself to mature and gain wisdom. You know, going off what we were saying about the toxic relationships. Like, I remember, like, there was this guy I used to deal with, and I was, you know, we'll say I was more immature. I'll say that, or whatever. I didn't know myself as much, and when I was dealing with him at first, like, we used to clash like crazy. Like, we always did, but like, we were very passionate, so that's what kept us, you know, talking, you know, dealing with each other. But obviously, like, that was me normalizing the arguments and stuff. So long story short, basically we stopped dealing with each other, and then some time passed. Like, I want to say like a year and a half passed, and then we basically like ran into each other again, and then you know, we ended up like trying it again. But like, what's the word, like, I had, in that whole year, I had so much growth as a person. Yeah, I was still immature. I still do have growing to do, but I knew myself a little more and knew more about my morals and my values. So when we tried it again the second time, and it's like, as soon as like that first or second argument came, I was like, I don't have to deal with this shit. Like, it was just like a click where I didn't even settle and sit with it longer, because I feel like I knew myself better and more of my morals were instilled, to where like he was already crossing the line. I was like, I don't need it. Like, it was an instant cut. You know, yeah, part of it was because I already had history with him and I knew where it was going, but a lot of it too was like, okay, I know I don't need this, click, click. So I feel like, you know, with the morals and stuff, you really have to sit with yourself to find out what your morals even are. And then, like Jim was saying, you know, if it ain't clear, just don't even force it, because in the day, especially at the age we are, you know, we're getting older, people are set in their ways. Like, some people, they have certain things, this is how they are. Some people are growing, they have a growth mindset, they can learn, but people have those bases that they look for in a person. And honestly, if you're not that for them and they're not that for you, it's okay to be like, all right, this just ain't it, because I'm gonna tell you this, that shit's just gonna keep coming up in different situations, different experiences when you're with that person. So why, like, allow yourself to keep, you know, getting drained, getting more in love with them, and just going through it? Even look up, more time is wasted. You know, I feel like we do not get time back. And you know, when a person show you their true colors, who the fuck they are, really pay attention to that and run with it, because I think we, you know, we have this notion that we can change everybody, and it's not good about, people can grow, people can learn from their mistakes, but some people, that's just who the fuck they are, and we have to learn to accept that.
And it has to come from them, though. You know, it can't just be, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but like, that change has to come from them. Yeah, we can't change people, so we need to realize when other people's values don't align with us, don't force it. Like, it's just not gonna work.
Yeah, and you know, change is, like Jim was saying, change is that inner work, you know. And I think with change isn't always good. I think people think, oh, I changed, but it's like, did you change for the better, or did you just get worse, or did you get deeper into your traumas to where now you're a bitter person? You know, and I think people think time is where change comes from. Time, there ain't no time to that. There's people that 5 years in the past, they are the exact same person. Like, they literally just floated through life. There's people that worked on themselves in that 5 years. So you can't say, well, I ain't seen this person in 2 years or a different person now. No, they might really just still be an asshole, if not worse. And you just have to see what it is and keep it pushing.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even count how many people I've known in the past, and like, you know, they've come back. I'm like, oh, maybe they're better, you know, or maybe they've changed. No, honey, like, do not go back to any exes, any past relationships. Don't get me wrong, like you said, you know, people can change, but like I said, that has to come from them. They have to have done the work, and then I would hope you would change in the next 2 years, year, whatever, that y'all haven't talked, and then maybe it didn't work out the first time, maybe it'll work out the second time. For some people it does, but that hasn't been the case in my situation, and I feel like I have to remember the reasons why I stopped talking to this person in the first place. Like, what was so traumatic about this experience, or, you know, what our values were at that time, you know, and still now, that like, we just, you know, they're big reasons that we didn't work out. It's not like they were the tiny things where it's like, oh, you know, I can't even give an example, but like, we just have to realize that some people we're just not going to be compatible with, and that's okay. You know, and I feel like that's one of the biggest things I've learned this year, especially during this quarantine, you know, that like, it's okay. Yeah, if it's not gonna work out with somebody, it's okay if it didn't work out in the past. You know what? You meet people, you love them, you can start loving them from afar, still wish them well. Anybody from my past, if you're watching this or hearing this, I don't wish you bad. I honestly hope you grow, because I know I've been growing as a person. I still got a long way to go, but honestly, like, there's no bad blood. I don't hate anybody, and I'm sorry we didn't work out, but I'm also grateful for it, and I hope that you've become a better person from it, because I've become a better woman from it too.
What Jen said. I mean, that's the end of the episode right there. I'm just like, but
Mic drop.
no, but that's some real shit though. And it's like, in the day too, we don't know what battles people are fighting privately. People have a lot of suppressed memories that they don't even talk about, and it's like, it really, our childhood, whatever we grew up with, really shapes the way we act in today's world. And like, I feel like some people choose to ignore it, some people choose to face it and stuff, and it's like, you never know what chapter in somebody's life, what chapter a person is in their life when you meet them, when you cross paths with them. And honestly, if they're not doing what they got to do to make it work with you, it's no point in trying to force it, and honestly, all of this relates to self-love, because I feel like when you're allowing yourself to align with some, to make healthier decisions, ask yourself, is it worth it? That is a big line of self-love, because you're giving yourself the best that you can give, then you're allowing yourself to not settle for less.
Yeah.
Because when we don't ask those questions, when we're forcing things, all we do is hurt ourselves at the end. So I feel like it's the opposite of self-love, when you're just selling yourself short.
Yeah, no, that's true. That quote that says, I'll struggle with you, but not because of you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I hold that very dear and true. Like, if we're always mad at each other because of each other, we just don't see eye to eye. Like, nothing we do is working. It's time to call it quits, right? And I think that's the biggest act of self-love, like you were saying, because that's when we realize that, yeah, it's okay to go separate ways, that maybe we grew apart, maybe, yeah, we made it work for a few years, but we're just going different paths. That's okay. Sometimes things happen in life, and you're not always going to get that person you originally thought you wanted, but at the end of the day, as long as you gained yourself back, as long as you're continuing to love on yourself, as long as you're finding out the best version of yourself, I think you're winning at the end of the day. And that person, I hope they find the best version of themselves too, and that's a win in itself also. So self-love is just about really, or in this particular topic, is just about really staying true to those values, like knowing what those values are, but then also not bending them for anybody. Like, at the end of the day, we know what we want, and when that's not being met, it's time to go.
Yeah, and what I want to add on to Jen's point is, don't be afraid to speak up about your needs. This is one of the main reasons we wanted to do this episode, is because there's a lot of, I've been in situations like this, and I know people, where you have your standards, you have wants, you have your needs in a situation, and you just choose to settle because it's like, okay, well, I don't want to scare this person away if I say this is really what I want, or, he's not going to like me if this is, or maybe seeming like I'm too much. Ladies, I'm going to say this, know your worth.
Mm-hmm.
You are never too much. In the day, if that's your standard, what you trying to meet, what you want a person to meet, keep it up there. Because in the day, a motherfucker will sit there and try to convince you to forget your needs and try to make you seem like your needs are too much, when in reality it's not. We got to stop with if it's just the basics, the simple shit, like he needs to do this, he needs to do that, and the person ain't rocking with that, you don't need to be dealing with that person. And if it feels wrong in your heart and your spirit, you do not have to settle just to make somebody happy. Because I'm going to be real. If somebody's allowing you to come down here just to meet their motherfucking needs, they going to step right over you and just go to the next person when they done. So, in the day, hold your standards where they are and keep them there. It's nothing wrong with that. I just feel like it needed to be said, because when we hold back, we're holding back on ourselves. And it's not fair to ourselves when we're selling ourselves short like that.
Honestly, I can't even count how many times I was afraid to tell a guy that, like, oh, I want this, or I expect this out of it, or I want it to be more serious or whatever, just because I didn't want to lose him, but at the end of the day, like, okay, I wasn't necessarily losing him in that moment, but I was losing myself. I was losing my standards, my values. Like, how is that any fair? Because I remember, like, I was talking to a guy, and we met, we were dating, whatever, and it was cool in the beginning, but then we finally got to that point, like, okay, well, what are you looking for out of this? And I appreciate that he kept it G. You know, he told me like I'm not looking for anything serious right now. Like, you know, I'm trying to finish up school. You know, and I just kind of want to have fun with somebody. And at that point, you know, we're on the date. So I was like, oh, okay, you know, I respect that. And then he asked me what I'm looking for. And I told him, honestly, I'm looking for something a little more serious. You know, and I was so proud of myself because that was one of the first times I, like, fully fought for myself, you know, without being afraid. Like, okay, if he ends the date right here, then that's it, you know. Like, usually, or before that, I was scared to just not tell, you know, or to tell a guy like I'm looking for something more serious, blah blah. So then, you know, he told me he respected that as well. So that we finished the date, whatever. It was a good date and all that. And eventually he took me home, and then he texted me the next day. We were texting for a cool minute, and then eventually he started like expecting things from me, or he was like expecting me to just you know, go out with him all the time, and just kind of like give him benefits, you know. And I was like, honestly, that's not cool with me, yo, you know, like I'm just not looking for that type of thing. I'm like, it's cool that you are, thank you for having told me, you know, but it's just not what I want. So then I'll never forget though, he's like, you know what, I respect that, like that's really golden of you, you know. And I'll never forget that moment. Not that I need validation from him, you know, but it was just cool, like for him to have respected those values also, because yeah, I'm not that type of person who was just gonna hook up with him, you know. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with hooking up with somebody if that's really the headspace you're in and stuff, but him and I just weren't aligning at that moment, so it just wasn't gonna work. So it was just like the first time I really started fighting for my values, and up until this day I hold it true. Like if I go on a date with a guy and I tell him I'm looking for something a little more serious and he's not cool, like, you know, we found out, let's go our separate ways. So
No, and it's great because it's like, I'm gonna be real, that's the thing about dating, not everyone's gonna be the one, you know. And I think it's cool when y'all could agree to disagree. It's like, okay, I'm looking for this, I'm looking for that, and that's the point. And I feel like that's why real dating needs to come back, because that's really how you get to know a person. Because I feel like in today's world, we'll jump into something and the two people have way two different things that they want from it. Their morals are different, and then they relationship later after, that's when they realize, oh shit, this person is this. I didn't even know this is really who they were, because they didn't take that time to get to know each other, get to know really what this person wanted and needed. So I feel like that's why it's important to take a side. Honestly, I'm at a point, I'm like, you know what, I need to start as a friend with your ass. Like really, let's just vibe and let's just get to know each other like on a raw level, because I feel like that's where the most stable relationships are built versus like just jumping into it, you know. Because there's all kind of situations out there. Going back in my naive days, I remember this one dude I was dealing with for, you know, some time. You know, I remember one day he was like, so like basically he was basically saying like, sorry, sorry, my mind was
okay.
all, I just had a mind moment.
These are raw thoughts.
Yeah, these are raw, very raw thoughts. So basically, like, you know, going off, like, you know, what we were saying about, like, you know, stop trying to fit into a person's box. I remember, like, I was trying to, you know, trying to be a good woman, all this stuff. And I remember the guy had told me, he's like, you're almost perfect for me. And I was like, what does that mean? He's like, a couple more things and you'll be perfect for me. I didn't understand that. So I was like, okay, what about what I want or need? He's like, well, what is it? And then, like, I named some things, like, you know, about like things that I like. And he's like, okay. And like, and my point to that is like, you know, I should have, you know, if I was me today, I would have walked away from that situation in the shoes on him, because it's like, this obviously a person who doesn't care about what I want in the situation. He's looking for the benefits he can get from me. But, you know, and being in that stage, I just like let him control my mind in that aspect where it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna just fit in his box because I really like whatever the fuck I was thinking at that time. But my point is, you know, honestly, stand firm with your morals. Like, just like what Jen said, how she stood firm, this is what she's looking for. And when you stay like that, all the bullshit will fade away. Even if you and someone just don't work out, at least you saved yourself some time and a headache. You know, and I think those are things that we just need to pay attention to, because, like I said, we do not get time back, and nobody got time to keep carrying fucking headaches.
Girl, tell it. Amen. Oh my goodness. And also, I just have to put this out from someone who has dealt with a narcissist before. Watch out for anybody who is too agreeing with you. They are too quick to jump into a relationship with you. They are just too perfect for you, because these people are very dangerous. They are good manipulators. They are good at what they do also. So just, you know, watch out. Your gut is going to tell you when something doesn't feel right, you know, when it just seems off, you know. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but I've seen all those Lifetime movies, so you know, like things can go south real quick. But you just have to like really people out, you know, and I feel like that's one of the biggest things I've learned in being single and just like fighting for my values, that you never get to fully know a person, but also like take your time. It's okay. Like what's wrong with dating somebody, learning what they're like, you know, and then seeing if your values align at that point. Like there's nothing wrong with that, you know. Isn't life all about connections and stuff? Like
I agree. And I feel like me and Jen could do a whole episode on narcissists. Like that's a whole like we'll probably have one of those for y'all soon. But honestly too, like, you know, going off what she said, I feel like too, like with knowing what you want and taking it slow with a person, write down what you want in a person. You know, I think if you have like that roadmap to follow you when you are in that getting to know stage, you'll know what the red flags are, especially when you've been through some shit. I think the best people are the people who've been through the worst shit, because you just know, okay, I for sure don't want this. You know, you're a stronger person. Hopefully you've learned from your mistakes, and you know, when that same thing comes at you, you know how to just push it away. And it's okay to say no to people. It's okay to take it as slow. You know, I think, you know, we need to take that back and learn and like, you know, using the time for good, I would say.
yeah, definitely. In the end, just know your worth, right? I mean, I know it's easier said than done, but I feel like it's so important for everybody, not just for women. I know we mainly speak for women, but like men too, you know your worth. Like have your standards. It's okay, you know. Don't ask for anything unrealistic that you can't provide. Obviously, this goes for all of us, you know, but at the end of the day, we do have to know that we matter, that there's something that we come with that's important, you know, and it has to be important for you. You have to be important for you, and that's where that worth comes from. Like just knowing that there's something inside you that just makes you want to wake up every single day. And if that's something that you're struggling with, then you have to start finding out what you're made of, what your worth is, because nobody else is going to do it for you. But honestly, we all have a purpose on here. You know, it's not just for relationships. We're not just here to make other people happy. We're here to make ourselves happy. You know, we have our whole other roles outside of love and relationships and all that stuff. But you're not going to know any of that if you're never finding out what you're made of.
Yeah, like when you know better, you do better. And honestly, it starts with knowing yourself first. So, you know, I mean, like Jim was saying, it's outside of just romantic relationships or family or whatever. Like, you know, when you know yourself, you're going to know your ambition. You're going to know what you're capable of. You're going to know what kind of impact you can make in this world, you know. So I feel like all of that starts from that. And then that's where your standards come in, and you knowing your worth and knowing, like, who to even have in your circle. Even just as a business partner, as a friend, you know, the kind of job you pick to work at, you know, you're gonna just hold yourself to a certain standard and just aim high, because you know you're worth hitting that, you know. And I think it's just something very important to take with you in anything, because I feel like what we tell ourselves when we're downing ourselves, that's the level we're swooping ourselves at, and that's why it'll allow us to accept anything that comes our way. But when you know yourself, you know your worth, you're not gonna put up with anything, and you're not gonna sell yourself short in any aspect of your life.
That's so true. Honestly, like, just knowing your worth, you know, like, just knowing what your values are and seeing that they're not aligning with anybody else's, or, you know, somebody else's is not aligning with yours, that's part in knowing your worth. But it's also going that extra step of staying true to those values. Like, okay, you may know what you want, you may know what you're looking for, you're ready for the relationship, whatever, but it's like, you're not, just because you're ready for it, it doesn't mean you're guaranteed to meet that person right away. You know, you're still gonna, like you said, you're still gonna meet the frogs along the way, you know. So you have to know how to discern all of that. Like, are you gonna be able to still weed out the bad ones from the good ones, you know, and like who's actually worth it, right? You guys know that Bob Marley quote that says the truth is everybody's gonna hurt you in life, but you just gotta know who's worth getting hurt for. And I think that's very true, you know. Like, no relationship is perfect, of course. You know, even ours isn't perfect. Like, the thing is, though, you have to find out who's worth that pain. Like, who's worth the forgiveness, who's worth the fighting for, you know, not fighting with. And you both have to do it. Any relationship you have in life, whether it's business, familial, romantic, they all have to be reciprocal. you can't be the only one fighting for the relationship. You can't be the only one just knowing what you want out of it and, you know, not benefiting, and the other person is just, you know, taking and taking and taking. Well, what about you? You know, you always got to fight for you. So when you are knowing like who's worth going through all of that for, that's gonna make your life a whole lot easier. And honestly, like when I started really analyzing that quote, my circle got a whole lot smaller too, because I realized like there aren't that many people I'm trying to please except for myself, you know, the people I really care about, the people who I want in my life, and that's okay. You know, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with having a lot of friends or knowing a lot of people. That's cool if you're a social butterfly, that works for you, you know, but also like you got to realize who you're really close to, because those people are going to hurt you and you're going to hurt them eventually.
Yeah, and honestly, life, relationships, it's all about balance. You know, like Jim was saying, no relationship is perfect, nothing is perfect, but it's about knowing your weaknesses, knowing your strengths, knowing your triggers, you know, knowing your, you know, what makes you the best person that you can be. And honestly, when you have that balance, when conflicts do arise, you will know how to handle it better in a more subtle way, you know. And let's take out this notion that love has to hurt, you know. If you've seen love growing up and it looked painful, it looked like there was a lot of trauma with it, you know, we have to take that out of it, because love isn't so, like, it isn't a necessity for love, you know. And you know, it's about having a healthy love and just, you know, just having healthy relationships in your life. I think honestly that's what me and Jen are trying to poke at here, is just being satisfied and being in healthy relationships.
Yeah, definitely. Love doesn't have to be traumatic. Like, yes, the arguments are gonna happen, but you shouldn't have to feel drained at the end of the day. You shouldn't have to feel like you're just constantly in an uphill battle with somebody, or like you gotta always have your guard on when you're dealing with somebody. Like, no, you know. So I think one of the biggest takeaways from all this is always honor your values, always honor your feelings. Like, if something feels off about a situation, it probably is, you know. Our intuition speaks before we do, so we need to listen to that. And then whatever your values are, if it's not aligning with somebody, get out. Why are you going to waste your time on a relationship that you know from that moment is not going to go anywhere? I've been in a situation like that where I really wanted it to go somewhere, but deep down I knew it wasn't going to. I wasted a few months of my life just dealing with this person, trying to make him happy, trying to make sure he was good. But guess what? I wasn't happy. I wasn't good. And he didn't care about my feelings, so I had to end up caring about my feelings. I had to end up fighting for my own values all over again.
Yeah, like, and honestly, when you honor your feelings and you honor your values, no one can tell you shit, because in the day when somebody is selling you short of it, they're not gonna even have the time of day with you, you know. So we just, you know, me and Jen like to touch up on our personal experiences, because, you know, honestly, we've learned from our experiences, and we just want to share what we went through, and, you know, hope we can help other people, you know, save y'all some time. Shit.
Seriously.
Just saying, you know. Well, you know, we hope y'all enjoyed this episode. And what's the question?
I always ask, is it worth it?
Yes, so ask that question. If it ain't, get the fuck on. Thank you guys for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You know, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're on here now. You can also check us out on Spotify, Podbean, at speakupjv.podbean.com. You can check us out on iTunes, apparently iHeartRadio. It was another one. Is all of them? Yeah, I think so. Sorry, so much going on. But we appreciate you guys. Check us out on the next episode.
We love y'all. Thank you. Bye.